Then we'll get on to... Very blue. That's all I can say here. Hey guys, how's it going? Elliot here again. In today's video, we're going to be continuing on in the Retro Handheld Extravaganza series, and in today's video, we're going to be having a look at the Sega Game Gear. Now, just like the Atari Lynx video, this Game Gear was lent to me by John, very good friend of mine, and he was very kind enough to lend this to me for the video, and a load of games and a couple of other peripherals for it. So without any further ado, let's get straight into it. So the Game Gear came out in 1990 in Japan. That's when it was first released, so 2 years after the Game Boy by Nintendo. In America and Europe it was 1991, and I think Australia was 1992, which is just a little bit after. It sold a hell of a lot of units. I think it was around 10 million. Which was obviously fantastic. However, I think the original Game Boy, which is right here, sold I think about 80 million or something incredible like that. So yeah, it sold a hell of a lot of units. It wasn't exactly a fail by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, the Neo Geo Pocket, which is another awesome little handheld console, which we're going to be getting onto very shortly as well in the series, that sold nowhere near the amount of units that this sold. I think this was only around 80,000 in the UK, in Europe, and not far off in America. This did slightly better in Japan. Actually, they released a fair amount of different revisions. Well, one different revision after this that was only released in Japan, but we'll save that for another video. However, this is just here then for comparison purposes. Anyway, let's get away from all the factual information and just let's have a look at the console. So, if we bring in Sega's granddad over here, the Sega Nomad, this is a handheld that was also released by Sega. Again, we're going to have a look at this in another video. Absolute disaster piece. It was basically a Mega Drive or a Genesis in a handheld, but I thought I'd again just bring this on for comparative purposes. I don't have the links anymore to compare the sizes, but if we have a look, it's not far off this, and I tell you what, with the batteries in here, it weighs an absolute ton. The Nomad takes a hefty 6 batteries. The Game Gear, fortunately, only took 3 times 2. It takes 6 as well, so as you can imagine, 6 AA's in here. It weighs a freaking ton. On the top then, let's start then, we have the volume, and oddly enough, everything's kind of reversed. I don't know if it's the same on these consoles as well. In fact, there doesn't actually seem to be. Oh no, it is. External is written upside down, if you kind of know what I'm saying here, but yeah, the volume's written upside down there. We've got headphones, external port, that looks like. This is kind of new to me as well, actually. This is the first time I'm playing with one of these. So yeah, it's an external port. We've got the games, we'll have a look at them in a minute. That just goes in the back, similar to pretty much everything else ever made. Then we have the power DC 9 volts, which is different to the Game Boy, which is 6. We've got the on switch, nice red, kind of, you can't really miss it. On the side we have the brightness wheel. Now this is something we're going to need. I'll explain why a little bit later. At the bottom here, looks like we have 2 kind of lanyard straps, so you can look like a tourist whilst playing this. And then yeah, pretty much that's it. On the back we have a couple of different screws and bits and bobs going on, but I don't have any of those peripherals to attach that to. Actually, I'll tell you a lie, I do. However, we'll have a look at that in a bit. So on the front then, we have a nice D-pad. Relatively similar to the Nomad one, I guess. It's quite big. Nowhere near as nice as the one on the Game Boy, because it's all this one kind of button, and it's raised, so if you play on the edge like that, you'll stab your finger. And of course, it's of no comparison to the Neo Geo one. Compared to the Neo Geo, it's ginormous. Compared to the Game Boy, it's not too different. It's about 1 inch on the top and like half an inch on the side there, but yeah. Considering this had a backlit screen, but we'll get onto that in a minute, it's I mean, far more advanced really than this, considering this came out 2 years afterwards. Anyway, let's move on to the games then. So I have a hell of a lot of them here that John has very kindly lent me to have a look at. So yeah, this is one we're definitely going to be having a look at. Castle of Illusion. This was a Mega Drive game, I believe. Then we also have Super Monaco, Master of Darkness, Game Gear written at the bottom there. Oh, they all have. Then we have Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble. We're definitely going to have a look at that one as well. Then we have Quest for the Shaven Yak. Right, well I definitely want to get a boxed copy of this, just because of that name. That is pretty amazing. I'm going to have a look at that after this video. Predator 2, Halley Wars, and then we have a bunch of other ones here. We have Wonder Boy, The Dragon's Trap. Interestingly enough, I also have this on the Master System. We'll get onto that in a bit though. Then we also have a game here. I think this Japanese one actually. It's not been opened, so we're not going to have a look at this. John went to Japan and got a bunch of games, so that's why there's some Japanese ones here as well. 50 yen equates to 50 cents, about that, 45 cents ish. Super Monaco GP, Grand Prix I believe. And that's it then for the different games. So to save the length of this video, I think what we're going to have a look at is just these 4 here. We'll quickly have a look through those. I really want to have a look at this one here, Wonder Boy, The Dragon's Trap. So we're going to plug that one straight into the back there. And let's have a look then at the console. Okay, that's not good. So yeah, you're going to notice a small problem here. The screen is bloody awful. Let's try and adjust something. Oh my god. Right, I'm going to turn this light off. Is this going to make the world a difference? Not at all. There we go, you can kind of see it like that. I can tell you it looks just as bad in person. Start button. Buttons over here are quite comfortable. So continue, enter password. We don't have a password. Oh my god, we're not going to be entering a password. No, go back. So yeah, actually a really nice looking game. Now bear in mind that there's a lot of kind of glare on the screen here from the backlight. Although turning the backlight doesn't really seem to. This brightness switch on the side isn't exactly helping, but the colours are actually quite vibrant. I'll try and take a photo then and snap it in as well on the front. But bear in mind, games competing against this were things like Tetris. And this was only 2 years after. You know, it's actually not a bad console by any stretch of the imagination. It's actually very capable games and hardware wise. It's actually almost completely thrown me back. I had no idea it was this good. This game, however, looks to be just a tragic side scroller of some description, and we're going to turn it off now. So next game then, let's have a look at the Quest for the Shaven Yak. Possibly the greatest name I've ever heard since the Cougar Boy. What is going on with the screen? Let's turn that off. Let's try again. Very blue. That's all I can say here. Everything is very blue. I'm going to turn the main light off and see if that helps. It really hasn't helped at all. In fact, it's probably made everything quite a lot worse. I have a feeling this game is not going to be as good as the name. Jesus, what is happening here? It's so hard to display the screen. There's a little bit of ghosting, but it's not actually that bad. compared to the Game Boy, this, again, I stress the fact this came out 2 years after, and it wasn't exactly an unsuccessful console. This game, however, is worse than the first one by 10 times, and it looks even worse in person, actually, surprisingly. Next, if I reach around blindly, hopefully we can pick up Mickey Mouse and the Castle of Illusion. Is that the one I got? We won't know because it's broken again. Castle of Illusion. Yeah, I mean, one thing you're going to notice then is that the games are bloody tricky to see. And, I mean, hopefully I've got a little bit of gameplay in here. I'm sure there are actually some sort of, like, really decent games for this thing. And one thing I've seen as well is that you can do proper LCD backlights, which is probably something you'd want to have a look at doing if you're going to be kind of binge playing games. If you didn't want to emulate them, you'd still be playing on the hardware. You just have the proper nice LCD screen on it. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and turn all the lights back on now. Okay, so that's it then for the Game Gear games. Quite interesting. I'm sure they'd be better if you could actually see the screen visibly. However, it's just a very difficult thing to actually record the screen on. We didn't get to have a look at the Sonic game, but this video is getting quite long, and there's still another peripheral I would like to show you, and that is this thing right here. Now, I'm almost certain that there was a official Sega released one of these. However, this was released by a company called Phase 9. Now, this is a adapter that goes onto the back of the Game Gear. It looks a little bit like a backpack, and it plugs into the actual game socket like that, and then screws in with a thread. I'm pretty certain, as I said before, that Sega released an official one of these. But yeah, for now then we'll just be looking at this Phase 9 one. So here's a Master System game. This is Wonder Boy. Which way does it go in? That is what the boy is actually wondering. And let's have a look and see if this works. Okay, so it turns out that the game just needs a little bit of force to go in, and hopefully it'll work. Nope. There we go. Yes. Games. Right, I do see a black border. You're not going to be able to see that. Oh no, it's gone. Right, here we go then. There's just no optimal way of showing this to you. There we go, like that. How do we start? Right, one button doesn't do anything. It feels like there's a bit of delay. The screen is very flickery. That is not the camera, that is actually the screen. Yeah, I mean we played this before and it was bad, so it's not going to be any better. Actually, it's probably going to be worse. Right, this is actually Rocky. And then Rocky was gone. So yeah, that's it then for the Game Gear. I mean, it's another one of those consoles that was a big part of history and didn't do too badly. However, it was, looking at it now, bad. I mean, we'll get on to... we'll get on to some consoles that, looking back at them now, still aren't bad by any means, but yeah, we'll get into them a little bit later on in the series. Does it really still work now as a feasible console to be enjoying your games on without modifying it? No, that's definitely not my my first kind of thoughts that I'm getting from this thing. That's it then for the Game Gear. I don't think it's a bad console. I think the games are freaking awesomely like technical for 2 years after the Game Boy. I mean, if you think about games like Tetris, Tetris was a fantastic game, obviously, but it's a very little in terms of like what's actually going on. So yeah, if we're looking at like 2D games like side scrollers and stuff compared to Tetris, you know, having a look at that contrast with the 2 year gaps, really quite different. Plus, looking at how modern this actually looks compared to the Game Boy as well is quite surprising. I definitely think Sega did a really good job on the console here. But yeah, that's it then for this episode of Retro Handheld Extravaganza. I really hope you guys have enjoyed. Let me know what consoles you'd like to see. I have a huge surprise coming up, console-wise, which I never thought I would ever own in my lifetime. And there's a huge shout out to a mate of mine, but we're going to be doing that in a future video. It's not going to be anytime soon, unfortunately, but yeah, Really excited for this one. Very little videos of them on YouTube. Probably a console that 80% of you haven't heard of yet. Kind of goes along with the Supervision. But yeah, that's a video for another time. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.